Next, we have a full and unconditional pardon for former Governor Rod Blagojevich of the state of Illinois.
Good. It's my honor to do it. I've watched him. He was set up by a lot of bad people, some of the same people that I had to deal with. He wasn't quite as successful, but he had somebody that saw what was going on. I didn't know him other than I believe he was on The Apprentice for a little while. He was just a very nice person. He had a fantastic wife. She fought like hell to get him out. He was given a sentence of like 18 years. And it was a sort of a terrible injustice. They just were after him. They go after a lot of people. These are bad people on the other side. So I think he's just a very fine person. And this shouldn't have happened, and it shouldn't have happened to him. And let him have a normal life and let him go out and do what he has to do. So I'm signing this as a full pardon. Rod Blagojevich.
Mr. President, are you considering him for ambassador to Serbia?
No, but I would. I mean, he's now cleaner than anybody in this room. He got a pardon. He's cleaner than anybody in the room.
Ladies and gentlemen, the nation's highest profile Trumpocrat in America, the 40th governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mark. Mark does a better Donald Trump than Donald Trump does. I want to thank him for the introduction, but I want to thank him again for bringing me home from prison. Trump and Mark. Mark played a big role in that, and of course I'm going to be profoundly grateful to him for as long as I live. Thanks, Mark. When he did that, I didn't even know who he was. I just got to know him the 2 years it took to get us back. I'm actually writing a book about that. He plays a role in the chapter called Fired and Freed by Donald Trump. And it was a up and down process because there was a hard political dynamic to it. But he was so steadfast and fantastic, and we had our ups and downs through all of that. And Cash would know what I'm talking about. It's a thing in prison that we call hope time, right? Mm-hmm. When you have this hope that maybe you're not going to do as long as these people want you to do. In my case, it was a 14-year sentence. What did they give you, Cash? You gave 51 months. And, you know, it's a daunting thing to think, 14 years. And but those last 2 years that I was there, when Mark got a hold of my wife, Patty, and played a role in convincing President Trump to take a look at my case and convince him to send me home. That was hope time. Those last 2 years flew by fast, and they weren't easy, but they sure did go fast. So I owe you hope time as well, buddy. Thanks so much for that. With that, you could just give me a standing ovation. Was that what that was? Thank you so much for that. I was going to ask Jessica Jackson if she could do what she does to get you all to stand up for me because it's been so long since anyone ever gave me a standing ovation. But I guess I don't have to bother you with that. Jessica Jackson, Jesse Jackson, Jesse the Reverend, and I knew each other pretty well, and I have really warm feelings for Reverend Jackson, but there's something about that name, Jesse Jackson and Jessica Jackson, that makes stirring speakers. She's really amazing, and she has that ability to be able to get you to say stuff back just like he does. Keep hope alive. Let me hear you. Keep hope alive, right? Fantastic, absolutely. Anyway, I just want you to know I didn't do it. Everywhere I go, I can't help it. I got to tell you, I didn't do it. And I never raised your taxes. Even though my party wanted me to, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do that either. Our country is facing a lot of difficulties, and I'll talk about that momentarily, but I just want to say a couple of quick things about how things have changed since I've come home. The Democratic Party that I was once in, sort of haven't completely given up on them. I'm a Cub fan. You know how it is for all those years, and they just never win, and hope springs eternal. And then I go to prison, and then they win the World Series in 2016. Sons of bitches. I couldn't see it. So it's kind of hard to leave the team that you've been with for a long, long time. So it's still hard for me to say, well, I'm completely out. So I call myself a Trumpocrat. And I'm a Trumpocrat for a couple of reasons. Well, first of all, I had to answer a question. I went to Harvard to talk to the students at the John F. Kennedy School of Government a little over a year ago. And by the way, it's the only way I can get into Harvard was to actually be the governor of Illinois, then go to prison. Because when I would apply right out of high school or college, I couldn't get in. I would get my letter of rejection back on a Tuesday after sending that letter in on a Monday. But I was invited to be there, and the kids are asking me, they're going through my record as a Democrat, and they're saying, how could you possibly be for Donald Trump? And my first answer was, let me tell you something, I'm a single issue voter. You get me out of jail, you got my vote. But I'm a lot more than a single issue voter. And in all seriousness, I know Donald Trump a little bit. Had some experience with him on a television show called Celebrity Apprentice. Best thing I ever did. But Donald Trump truly loves this country. And I know the stuff he's going through because I had to go through it myself. And to go through what he goes through with the life that he had, billionaire real estate developer, #1 rated television show, entertainer, celebrity, that lifestyle that Trump and people like that live. And then to give all that up to be in the political arena and to be treated the way he's being treated by my party, well, the party that I was so involved in when I was governor, congressman, and state rep, and even by members of his own party. In other words, those who are part of the political establishment, the ruling elite, because they are in so many ways bipartisan. They play within certain boundaries. But for the most part, it's an inside game. And the rest of you, the rest of us, we have to pay for the stuff to keep their system and keep their gig going. It happens in Washington. It happens in the state government in Springfield, Illinois. It's how it is in too many cases because people of goodwill run for office and then they go to Washington when they get elected to Congress, or they go to Springfield when they're elected state rep, and suddenly the system co-ops them. And those systems are all about the people that are on the inside. It's former members of Congress who are now lobbyists. It's members of Congress who've been there for 1,000 years. It's speakers of the House in Illinois who've been there for 2,000 years. And I don't want to say anything to prejudice his circumstances right now because that should be up to the jury to make that decision. But we are the highest tax state in the nation because of that kind of leadership. Highest tax state in the nation. And there's more than 2,000 taxing units in Illinois. You know why they did it that way? So they can just cheat and lie and pickpocket you, pick your pocket. So you don't really know who's taxing. So you can't really hold anybody accountable. All you know is you got less money. You're working longer, you're working harder, but you got less money. Because they find all kinds of ways to nickel and dime you and take your money. And not nearly enough in the priorities that ought to be there to help the real people who are out there doing the work of the world, but instead the special interests and the insiders, the deep state. There is a deep state. Donald Trump is right when he talks about that. And he is so courageous and so strong and so patriotic on how he's willing to put himself out there and fight that deep state.